You know why our young couples are not committed like their mothers and fathers were? Because somewhere in the generational handoff, we forgot to speak to them or show them or prove to them or introduce to them some core doctrines. How can you expect a young preacher to want to spend 7 hours in prayer and 7 hours in study and go evangelize the world if he's never been exposed to, never been talked to? You never. Okay, I'm going to prove it to you. So he says, drink the bitter. Why? Because 90% of your appetite comes from your colon. You can only desire to eat what you have previously tasted before. Anybody ever ate, is it escargot or snails? Y'all crazy. How many of you have ever ate crawfish? Yeah. What's the difference in a snail and a crawdad? Because I've ate crawfish and I've never ate a snail. So anybody that eats a snail, I snarl. I'm like, how nasty can you be? But if you eat crawfish, I'm like, I feel you, dog. Because I have enjoyed crawfish. I will never enjoy snails. And so when they get up and out and start the journey, they are supposed to drink from something bitter that cleanses their colon. So that now when he introduces the new dietary plan, they don't say, oh, I don't want to have to eat this one back in Egypt we had. I don't want to have one back in Egypt. I don't want back in Egypt. And Moses got so sick of it, he said, I hope God kills every one of you for wanting to go back to Egypt. Does it not sound something like what the book of Hebrews, the 11th chapter, long about 23, 24th verse starts saying? That if you truly love God and want to go to heaven, you will openly profess, openly confess that this world is not your home, that you are a pilgrim, you are a stranger, because they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country. And truly, if they're mindful of the country from where they come out, God will let them go back. The only way you can desire where you've come from is never relieve yourself from the taste. I'm going to hold on just to enough. I'm going to hang on just enough of yesterday, just enough of the world that I can always go back if I choose to. And that's the wrestling match that Jehovah had with Israel, that the God of heaven had with his chosen people. He had to show out for them to get them to move from one camp to the next camp. He had to perform miracle signs and wonders to get them to follow him. They were rather comfortable camping in a tent, living in a wilderness, because he provides. We are not supposed to be just a church of provisions. We are supposed to be the people that possess things. I'm sorry, but we should not go to camp meeting to partake of. We should not have to go to special events to partake of. If we ever truly become the sons of God, we will live in a constant place of possession. You can be at Walmart. I don't guess you have Walmart. You can be at a grocery place. You can be at a gas station. You can be at a school. You can be in the neighborhood and be in the divine Shekinah glory presence of God and speak to something that is not as though it. You don't have to be at church to have a move of God. You don't have to have all of this to do the will of God. We are the temple. We are the tabernacle. We are the glory. We are the express image. We are. I apologize for personal references. I don't live in anybody else's life, so I don't have any of your stories to share. If I did, I would share them today. In one of these moments, and we had a doctor coming in, and my son is waking up to this knowledge that his life is forever altered, and I'm struggling with faith, and I'm trying to figure out how to wrap his mind around it. Man, I felt the Holy Ghost speak to me. He said, tell him right now, before the doctor comes in, tell him right now to write out 5 things that he wants the doctor to say when he comes in. And I'm in this little room with my son, and things are crazy, and it's crazy. And I look at Colton. I said, Colton, do you believe? Do you trust me? He said, of course. I said, okay. Thank God for iPhones. I said, I want you to take your iPhone out and open up the notes. And I want you to write 5 things you want the doctor to say about your condition when he comes through those doors. He said, are you serious? I said, very. Just do it. He said, okay. Now, Colton is not, I got 4 boys, and all 3 of them are very outgoing. I say the first 3 are more like my brother, and I don't mean that bad. And Colton is a little bit like his dad, and I know I seem very outgoing, but really I'm not. I don't really like people. I believe what you said, man. I crossed over 50. I'm fixing to come mean. I'm done with being nice, man. I work hard at communicating with people, and Colton is a lot like that. And so for him to be so excited, I'm like, man, this really is God. And so he wrote 5 things. He wrote 5 things. And I said, now make it plain, like we know what we're waiting on. When he comes to that door, you put words in his mouth. He still has it. And so doctor come in, a couple more come in. He sits down. He says, Mr. Colton, how you doing today? And Colton said, fine. The talker, fine. And he's got his phone. And he's looking at the doctor. And the doctor says, well, got a couple of things. Well, more than a couple. I've got about 5 things I want to talk to you about here today. Folks, I'm not making these stories up. 5. I look at Colton. I'm like, go big dog. And so doctor says, first thing I want to talk to you about. And as he speaks, I have Colton's notes shared to my iPhone. I'm reading, and Colton's reading. And in the presence of God on this carpet, in this place with you, it's like Colton emails his note to the doctor, and the doctor verbatim reads with much intellect the notes of a 14 and a half, 15-year-old young man that has just said, this is what I want him to say. That's why when I walk up here today and I hear sermons like this, it fires me up, because it means I'm one step closer to getting out of this provisional land into a land that I possess. I don't know about you, but I'm so ready to live in a constant state where there's healing and miracles and signs and wonders, and God's presence abides in the church like the book of Acts and Paul talked about. I'm tired of visiting places and going away from it. I want God to do these things. Would you lift your hands and your voice real quick? If you can help me on the screen real quick, Numbers chapter 14, verse number 8. Numbers 14, verse number 8. Exodus of God's people is my favorite study. If I preach 20 sermons, I'm going to preach 19 and a half of them out of the Old Testament. And it's probably going to be in these first 5 books. Because I am a firm believer that I cannot know how to go to heaven without understanding why Israel didn't go. Does that make sense? Because that's what Paul said, Corinthians 10. And often he said, you got to go back and you got to figure out what they did that caused them not to go, so you know what not to do, so you know what to do. Because if you keep doing what they did, you'll do the same thing they did, and you won't make it. You'll just wander in the wilderness and get few provisions along the way, but you're going to end up dying in between where you left and the place you're supposed to go. You're looking at one preacher that will not leave this earth dying in the land between. Either God is or God isn't. I feel like that old prophet on Mount Carmel. Either he's God and he's going to do these things, or he's not God at all. I can't force God in a corner. I can't make God operate, but I can find out what pleases him. And he's a father that loves his child. And as a child that goes to his father, the more I know about my dad, the more I can get out of my dad. Other day, I know I found out from Liao that in Malaysia, you're not supposed to have firearms or guns. In America, we have like 2,900 per person. And so I have several deer rifles, hunting rifles, and I have some that are my favorite. And so a few months ago, I got to looking for one of my rifles, and it wasn't in the safe. It wasn't under my bed. It wasn't in my hunting truck. And I'm like, where's my rifle? Would you say where's my rifle? And so I called my wife, because my wife, takes good care of me. She knows what all these things are. And I said, hey, you know where my rifle is? She said, I don't have a clue. And I said, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm like, okay. So I got in a group text, and I said, Devin, Logan, Dylan, and Colton, where's Dad's rifle? My 25-06 with my Leupold scope on it. I want to know. And one of them said, I have it. And it's my number 2 son, my namesake, my Jeffrey Morgan. And I said, why do you have my gun? He said, because it's mine. I said, excuse me? He said, you preached here a while back that whatever the Father had, the Son had. Well, you're talking about something blowing up in your face. And so I took that, and I've used that since then. If I could grasp the simplistic faith of my number 2 son, God, Dad, whatever you have, I have. Oh, no, let's don't believe that. Let's believe that we got to come over here and God smack us in the face with a need and go beg him and see if he has enough in his account to cover our need. Or can I not just get up every morning and say, whatever comes at me today, he is sufficient. He has more than enough. Cannot I just live life believing that my Father knoweth how to give good gifts to them that are his? All right. They've done left me. So let's back up. Dysentery. You got to get that stuff out of your system so you quit desiring it, tasting it. And I think I can prove that through the book of Numbers and Exodus, even into the book of Corinthians and Romans. Anyway, I was reading this incredible Exodus again and come across this verse. And it has revolutionized my life, my walk with God, and it means the world to me. And it's this one right here. If the Lord delight in us, you cannot go to the second until you answer the first. If God delights in us. If God delights in us. God, somebody help me. If God delights in me. Brother Hughes, if he's my dad, why wouldn't he delight in me? Unless I've got stuff hidden in my heart that I know Dad knows, and Dad knows I know, and I'm trying to hide it from Dad, and then I know Dad doesn't delight in me, so I'm not going to believe that Dad's going to give me what I really want, because I know Dad knows that I know he knows, and he knows I know. And I hope you know that you know everything I just said. Yeah. Go to school and learn that. So here we go. God, if there's nothing in my heart that would push me from you or hold me from you, then with boldness I can come into your presence and believe that you delight in me. And because you delight in me, you will bring me into